"I can't do this," she whispered, her wedding dress rustling. "Not when I feel this way about you." My heart shattered as I watched the bride I'd fallen for stand there in the gown I'd helped her choose, 3 hours before her wedding was supposed to begin. "My name is Sophie Laurent, and I've planned over 200 weddings." I was completely unprepared for Isabella Martinez. She walked into my office on a rainy Tuesday morning, 26, elegant with long dark hair and warm brown eyes. She wore a simple cream dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. "Ms. Laurent, I'm Isabella. Thank you for meeting with me. Please call me Sophie. Tell me about your vision." Isabella settled gracefully, but I caught tension in her shoulders. "That's the problem. I don't really have one. My fiancé James has very specific ideas. His family owns Martinez Hotels. What would you want if it were entirely up to you?" Her eyes lit up. "Something intimate, garden setting, string lights and wildflowers instead of crystal chandeliers." "That sounds beautiful. James thinks it's too casual. We're having 300 guests at the Ritz-Carlton." Isabella's voice carried resignation. "Sometimes I feel like I'm just the actress playing the bride in someone else's production." Something about her vulnerability made me want to help her find authentic joy in this elaborate performance. "Here's what we'll do," I said. "We'll give them the grand wedding they want, but weave in touches that feel like you. Eucalyptus instead of roses. A string quartet with songs that mean something to you personally." Isabella's smile transformed her face. "You really think we can do that?" "I'm very good at my job. By the time I'm finished, you'll feel like the wedding reflects who you are." The gratitude in her eyes made my chest tighten in ways I wasn't prepared to examine. We spent an hour going through details. Isabella was intelligent, thoughtful, and surprisingly funny when she relaxed. "Tell me about James," I said finally. "What drew you to him?" Isabella paused. "He's stable, successful. My parents approve. We make sense on paper." The way she avoided the word love wasn't lost on me. As Isabella left, she turned back. "Sophie, thank you for listening to what I actually want. I haven't felt heard in months." After she left, I sat alone trying to understand why this consultation felt different. Something about Isabella's quiet sadness lingered with me. I kept thinking about the way her eyes had lit up when she talked about string lights and wildflowers. This was going to be a challenging project, but not in the way I'd initially thought. 2 weeks later, we met at the Ritz-Carlton. Isabella arrived in a navy dress but looked tired. "How has planning been at home?" "James hired his own coordinator for the business side. He wants to ensure everything meets his family's standards." Her voice was carefully neutral. I felt unexpected irritation. "And what about your standards?" Isabella glanced around the opulent ballroom. "Apparently I don't have any that matter." During lunch, Isabella seemed to relax. "Tell me about your business," she said. "How did you get into wedding planning?" I found myself drawn to the storytelling aspect. Every couple has a unique love story, and the wedding should reflect that narrative. Do you ever wonder what your own wedding would look like? I haven't met anyone who makes me want to plan a lifetime together. Isabella nodded thoughtfully. James proposed because it made sense for both families. I'm not sure we've ever talked about dreams, just obligations. As we discussed arrangements, I noticed how Isabella's face lit up at natural, organic options. What if we compromised? Formal arrangements for the ceremony, but something personal for your getting ready photos? Like what? Wildflower bouquets during prep, intimate photos that feel authentic to you. Isabella's smile was radiant. You always find ways to include what I actually want. How do you do that? Maybe because I'm paying attention to you specifically, not just the wedding template. Our eyes met, and I felt that electric connection. Isabella looked away first, but not before I caught the flush in her cheeks. "I should get going," she said. "James is expecting me for dinner with his parents." As I watched her leave, I realized I was looking forward to our next meeting more than any professional consultation should warrant. Isabella Martinez was becoming more than a client, and that was dangerous territory. But I couldn't bring myself to care about the professional risk as much as I should have. A month before the wedding, Isabella called me in tears. "Sophie, can you meet me? James showed me the final guest list tonight. 600 people. He doubled our numbers without consulting me." Her voice cracked. "I don't even know half the people coming to my own wedding." I found her at a quiet wine bar, mascara slightly smudged. Isabella poured out her frustrations. The wedding had grown beyond recognition. James had overruled most of our personal touches. He hired his own photographer, changed the menu without telling me. "Sophie, I feel like I'm disappearing from my own wedding day." "What did you say to him?" "That I felt unheard." He said I was being emotional. Isabella took a shaky sip of wine. "Maybe he's right. Isabella, look at me." I reached across and covered her hand with mine. "Wanting your wedding to reflect who you are isn't emotional. It's human. Are you happy with James?" The question hung between us. Isabel stared at our joined hands. "I thought I was supposed to be. He's everything I should want." "That's not what I asked." "With James, I feel safe, but not alive. Does that make sense?" It made perfect sense. "What makes you feel alive?" "This," Isabella said softly, looking directly at me. "These conversations, the way you listen and hear what I'm saying, how you fight for what I want when I'm too scared to fight for it myself." My heart hammered. "Isabella, I know this is complicated, but Sophie, I can't stop thinking about you, how you make me feel like my opinions matter." I should have maintained professional distance. Instead, I squeezed her hand. "I think about you too, more than I should." We sat in charged silence, both aware we'd crossed a line. "What do we do now?" Isabella whispered. "I don't know, but you need to be sure about James before you walk down that aisle. You deserve to be happy." "What if I'm not sure?" "Then we figure it out together." It wasn't a solution, but it was permission to keep exploring these feelings. Everything had changed between us. 2 weeks before the wedding, we had the final dress fitting. Isabella emerged in her gown, stunning silk and lace that made her look like a romantic heroine. "You look beautiful," I said. Isabella studied herself in the mirror. "Do I look like me, though?" The dress was exquisite but formal, chosen by James's mother. "What if we made one small change? Your hair? Something softer instead of the elaborate updo." Standing behind her, I gently lifted sections of her hair. Our eyes met in the mirror, and the intimacy made my breath catch. "Sophie," Isabella said softly, turning to face me. We were standing very close. "We should be careful," I whispered, but didn't step back. "What if I can't go through with this? What if I can't marry James knowing how I feel about you?" Before I could respond, James walked in with his mother. "Isabella, darling, how's the fitting going?" Mrs. Martinez swept in. James wanted to see the dress. We quickly stepped apart. "The updo we discussed will be perfect," Mrs. Martinez declared. "Elegant and appropriate." I watched James study Isabella. His expression was appreciative rather than overwhelmed with love. He looked like a man admiring an acquisition. "You look exactly how a Martinez bride should look," he said. "Not my bride, but a Martinez bride." As if Isabella were interchangeable. As they left, Isabella lingered. Sophie, could we meet tomorrow to finalize music selections? Is that necessary? James frowned. I thought everything was settled. After they left, I stood alone, surrounded by white gowns and dreams. In 2 weeks, I would watch the woman I was falling for marry someone else, unless Isabella decided to stop it herself. The night before the wedding, I found Isabella on the hotel's garden terrace at midnight, having second thoughts, third and fourth thoughts. At rehearsal, when the officiant asked James to practice his vows, he listed my qualities like a business proposal. Intelligent, beautiful, will be an asset to the Martinez name. What did you expect? Something about loving me, building a life together. Isabella turned to face me. Sophie, I think I'm in love with you. Isabella, I love you too, but you're engaged to someone else. I know. But I can't marry James when my heart belongs to you. I want to call off the wedding. My heart soared and plummeted. The consequences will be enormous. The consequence of marrying someone I don't love while being in love with someone else feels worse. Are we worth the risk? Looking at her in the moonlight, I knew my answer. Yes. So walth brave. Nay, Hori.
Scene 3.
3 hours before the ceremony, Isabella stood in her bridal suite. I can't do this, she whispered, her wedding dress rustling. Not when I feel this way about you. James and both families were dealt with swiftly. Shock, anger, threats, but Isabella handled it with grace, explaining she couldn't commit when her heart belonged elsewhere. 6 months later, I planned my first wedding as Isabella's partner. Small, intimate, in the garden where we'd fallen in love, with string lights and wildflowers exactly as she'd dreamed. As Isabel walked toward me wearing a simple dress that made her glow with happiness, I realized sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin when someone chooses their heart over their obligations. Did I really fall for the bride I was planning a wedding for? Absolutely. And she fell for me too.